So this week I learned that apparently I can't wear like 1990s wrestling shirts anymore because I was led to believe that it means that I'm drinking the blood of children. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update as we are headed towards the end of January, and 2022 is well on its way to go, right? Well, lots of things to talk about this week, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it, guys, with what am I reading? I did finish God's Grave. I told you last week I had just a little bit left, and so that meant that I was going to go ahead and start the next book, which was Dark Dawn, and I got about this much left, guys. It's going to be very bittersweet. I've had a wild ride with this trilogy, and I can't wait to see what happens, but I'm also a little nervous because one thing I'll say about Jay Kristoff is he's not afraid to, if you know what I'm saying, because there's been a high body count up to this point, and yeah, even on some of the ones I thought, okay, well, that one's protected by plot armor. He doesn't know what that term means. So, yeah, it's a series that I'll get into when I fully review it, and I don't want to regurgitate too much of what I said last week, but basically, I think the series has been just wholly misrepresented on BookTube. This is a fantastic series that I think everyone should read for good reasons. It's very exciting. It's got twists and turns. It has great characters, and it has an awesome lead protagonist that's just... I'm having a hard time thinking of one that I've liked better, honestly. It's a really, really good character, some really good growth, and a really great journey. I just realized I still have my heater on because it's 40 in Houston, and in Houston 40 is cold. Yes, guys, I know you guys where it's very, very chilly around the year. That's probably a heat wave for you, but in Houston that is very, very cold. Other than that, I went ahead and started Beowulf. Me and Philip are going to be reviewing this one together, and so I wanted to kind of get a head start. So what I plan to do is the story is roughly 3,000-ish lines. So I wanted to make sure that I just read like 150, 200 lines per night. That way you can kind of just... honestly, if I'm being honest with you guys, this isn't a story really that you can binge read. If you do, I feel like there's going to be so much just left on the table that you don't understand. So I like to read a few... just a couple hundred lines at a time, kind of let it digest a little bit, even though I do think that Tolkien has made it make more sense than it did when I read it in high school. In high school, I think we'd read 5 lines, and then the teacher would be like, okay, let's talk about what those 5 lines meant, right? And, half the time we're kind of like... But hey, it's Tolkien, right? If anybody's going to be able to translate it to a language that everyone's going to easily understand, I think it's him. Now, I don't... Again, guys, I was, 16 last time I tried to read this. I don't know if it was really that hard or if I was just 16. I don't know. So I'm being like, what a simpleton. You don't understand Beowulf. But, I'm glad that it's in prose and not in a poem because I feel like it's easier to understand that way. But so far, it's pretty much the story as everybody remembers it. I'm sure that people even who haven't read it, you kind of know the story loosely because I think it's been borrowed from for so much. And, this book is like 1,000 years old, guys. I mean, this is amazing. This book has stood the test of time like it has, and it just continues to be translated by so many reputable authors. And when you go into Mr. Tolkien doing it, obviously, I've heard a lot of people say that he's the one who actually brought it to, modern audiences. I don't know the truth behind that. I didn't really even know until, 6 months ago that he had translated the story. So I don't know the truth behind any of that stuff, but excited to continue with that. And that leads me to what am I going to read, guys? Obviously, I'm going to finish Dark Dawn. Obviously, I'm going to keep working on Beowulf. That's going to be slowly over February. Me and Philip should be tackling that towards the end of the month, so plenty of time for that. And then the next read-along, guys, that is going on the channel, that is Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. So we'll be continuing with Stone of Farewell. I liked Book 1 a lot. And I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, Book 1's kind of rough, but it's just, it's full speed ahead after that. I was fine with what happened in Book 1. So I don't need a lightning quick pace for these things. I'm okay with a slow burn. I like some things that happen, but it seems very much to be a character study, which, I'm very, very excited about. And with the way the last book popped off, I'm excited to see what happens with Simon and company in this one. And little smaller than the last one, but still... not short. Again, you see these books, and they just look like a normal size. That's a really, really small print in there, guys. So I'm excited to kick that off. I'm going to be starting that on the 1st with everyone else. After that, guys, you do know that the other read-along on the channel, obviously, is this big boy. Now, I'm not starting it on the 1st like I usually would because, like I said, There's not enough people left in that read-along for me to worry about doing that on the first, because literally the only people who talk to me are people that have already read it. So I don't feel like I'm in a hurry to get to that. But what I plan to do is finish Stone of Farewell, and I'm going to work on Toll the Hounds and Abandon by Blake Crouch kind of at the same time. So every time that this starts to, be like, okay, I need a break, and pick up some Blake Crouch. That's always going to get the blood pumping a little bit, right? Because, that's what Blake Crouch does. I don't know too much about Abandon, except, I don't think that this is one of his science fiction ones. But here's the thing, is I didn't think Pines was science fiction until you get, a little further into it, and you're like, I see. So I would be shocked if this didn't have some kind of twist in it. But that's a big old chunker for Blake Crouch. I think that's I think that whole Wayward Pines trilogy might have just barely been longer than this. But one thing I learned with Recursion and Dark Matter, and of course Wayward Pines, is the pages just fly by when you're reading a Blake Crouch book. So I think that might be the perfect pairing with this. Let's see if I can get through book one in this one before I finish this one. That's kind of what we got going on for what I'm going to read before we get into some other things in the month. I did set the goal for February to read 5 books, including Beowulf. So that all depends, guys, how fast I go through Toll the Hounds or not. If Toll the Hounds isn't able to finish in February, I'm fine with it going into March. I have 2 months to read these Malazan books, so if I have to use that, I will. But there are some other things I'm looking to get into, but we'll talk about that, on another weekly update. Let's go ahead and talk about this week on the channel, guys. I did my Talk About Nothing with Mark from Slowly Read, and that was a lot of fun talking to that guy. We talked just under 2 hours. I know some people are like, oh, I thought you were going to go for 3. Look, I don't expect that everyone's going to have 3 hours of time to talk to me, and that's fine. I think that we can have a good conversation in about an hour, so I think anything over that should be like a bonus, right? But we talked about, the stuff that you would expect, and then plenty of stuff that you wouldn't expect. Like, I forgot about halfway through that Mark is into the New Jedi Order as I am. So it was hard for me not just to turn that into a full, okay, we're going to break down the New Jedi Order beat by beat here, because it's just so hard to find other people that were into Star Wars books that like the EU, like I like the EU, and that really loved the New Jedi Order, as a lot of people I knew kind of tapped out. So great time, great channel. I hope you guys will check his stuff out. He just did his Grimmy Awards, Grimdark Awards at Grimmy's. It's pretty good. I like that. Speaking of Grimdark, I did my review for Miss Anna Stevens' The Godblind trilogy, and I kind of answered that question that I get most frequently, but that is it grimdark? I think it has grimdark elements in everything, except that it does have some characters that want to do good. And I know some people think that you have grimdark, you can't have any good characters, that want to do good just because it's the right thing to do, not in like a self-indulgent way. But yeah, I mean, everything that happens in that book is just brutal. It's just brutal. I talked about, Jay Kristoff, like, having no respect for his characters, and he'll just wipe them clean with no problem. Anna Stevens isn't too far behind. I think what I said in that is bad things happen in her books, and she's not going to hold your hand unless it's to hold your hand and take you closer to see the bad thing that is happening real close. So I was excited to talk about it because I feel like it's one of those series that doesn't get talked about very much on BookTube at all. So I wanted to kind of try to bring some attention to it, even though, people have no interest in reading it, or if they haven't read it already, they're not going to watch that review. But I will do my part to do my duty, which is to get more eyes on some of these lesser known series. Like when I started doing First Law series, guys, there wasn't anybody talking about it on BookTube. Now it's freaking everywhere. I'm not saying I started it. I'm just saying I was ahead of the curve a little bit. So maybe the same will ring true for that one. Did a top 10 this week. Top 10 Wheel of Time characters. It's something that I meant to do back in April of 2020 when I finished the series, was kind of talk about my top 10. Just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so I thought, with all of the new Wheel of Time content I've been having because of the interest in it, because of the show, I thought it was a good way to kind of wrap up all that coverage I've been doing of Wheel of Time, was to kind of talk about, my favorite characters, why they're my favorite characters, what made them my favorite characters, that kind of thing, without really getting heavy in spoilers or anything, because I don't want to ruin that series for anybody. But yeah, like I said, I feel like there's more interest in that series, from people who haven't read it than ever before. So if I can encourage people for picking up those books for the first time, hey, that is definitely something that I am interested in doing. And then it was kind of like a surprise thing. We got the bomb dropped on us this week that Stephen King is putting out a new book this year, which we knew about, but it's not this Holly book about the virus that shall not be named. No, it is a 600-page coming-of-age portal fantasy book. And I'm like, yes, sir, bring all that on. So With that, it really is a video where I say almost absolutely nothing. It's just me for 15 minutes being super excited that Stephen King's writing a fantasy book. So if that's something that you're interested in, if my enthusiasm is infectious, as some people have told me that it is, then yeah, hey, check that video out. Because I talked about maybe some of the possibilities of some of the Dark Tower multiverse connections that they could probably have and what I expect to have and things like that. But even if not, I'm saying if I get just a standalone 600-page epic fantasy novel from Stephen King, okay, I'll take that every single time. So a little bit of a speculation, but mostly just my instant reaction and thoughts, which is just that I'm very excited and I talk about what it's about and the quote from Stephen King about what led him to do this. And I just said I think it's perfect timing, guys. It's perfect timing. We've been depressed about this whole thing that's going on for the last 2 years. Do we really need a book about that? No, give us some escapism. Take us to another universe and let's just go crazy and see what happens. That's the kind of King that I am here for. So I'm very, very excited about it. September the 6th, you guys. It's going to be a day one read because I know Simon & Schuster isn't going to give me an arc. They never do. Let's talk about some next week plans, guys. Before we start Stone and Farewell, I got to get my review up for The Dragonbone Chair. Like I said, a book that I enjoyed quite a bit. I'm going to talk about why. It's going to be spoiler-free, guys. I know a lot of people are like, oh, would you do like a spoiler talk? No, maybe at the end of the series, I might do a spoiler talk or something for the whole trilogy. But I'm really kind of getting away from spoiler everything on this channel, guys. It doesn't do enough interest to my audience. It doesn't read some of these books. They're not gonna care to hear me talk about them for an hour. So. A lot of people that have joined the read along have been like, we've been talking about us doing like a voice chat on the Discord. So maybe join the Discord. We can talk about it there. I may be doing a voice chat in the Discord about book one, and where everybody can just kind of talk about book one, all spoilers, and see what they thought about it before we start book two. I think it'd be a good way to wrap that up. So it's no special access needed, guys. You want to get on the Discord and get in that voice chat, you can. I haven't actually announced this yet. It's just something that I thought would be a neat idea for people who want to kind of just talk about it without having to trudge through a 30-minute video of me rambling about how, hey, I like this, hey, I didn't like that, What else? I think I'll do my January wrap-up because we are coming up to the end of January, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the month. As per usual, always fun to gauge how things are going on the channel. It's kind of weird. It seemed like the last couple months, my views and my watch time went up. My subscribers went down. Now my subscribers are going back up. My views and watch time are going down. I think it's because I'm not doing, an hour talk with Madison every week about Wheel of Time. I think that kind of brought some of my watch time down. But that's expected. Hey, it's always fun to talk to other people. That's why I had to talk about nothing and things like that. But again, that's all that the wrap-up is just kind of talk about that. Talk about my most popular content for the month, what I kind of want to do next month, and things like that. I always enjoy doing those. Think about doing it off the books. And I know that, guys, I know this isn't the kind of content that you guys are signed up for. The thing with off the books is that it gives me a chance to break the monotony of just talking about the same things over and over and kind of just say, hey, look, I do have other interests besides, just books. And I understand that if you guys don't want to watch, that's fine. This is just kind of something to help me get those demons out. But what I'm going to kind of do, my off the books, is I'm going to kind of review this new car that I bought. And it's really going to kind of be like a vlog of like my first 30 days with my new Dodge Challenger and kind of some of the upgrades that I've made to it, some things I've added to it, answer some questions because there are still a lot of people who were interested in buying one. They want to ask some questions. So, kind of like when I reviewed that sandals trip, it's just, I know that there are professional reviewers that handle car reviews or professional reviewers that handle like, tours and resorts and things like that. Hey, this is just me kind of having fun with it and seeing how I do with it. So if you don't want to watch that, I get it. Totally. That's just something that I think would be kind of fun for me to kind of talk about it because, you get a new car, guys, and, you love it. You want to talk about it. You want to show it off to people and things like that. So it's a lot of fun for me. I know that I'll get a lot of comments about how Dodge is a terrible company and things like that. Hey, that's always going to happen. But, there's some kind of, no matter what car you dislike, there's someone out there that loves it. That's what I always say. And then one that I was kind of thinking of, because I've been kind of doing like this kind of like off the wall one every week, since I'm only just doing like one review per week now. It's because people aren't watching the reviews, guys. They like these silly off the wall ones. And I think what I'm going to do this week is because we've been talking about classics on the Discord a lot this week. So I thought a good topic to do because a lot of good discussion on there. They're doing this thing on the Discord where they're reading like one classic per month. They take a vote and everybody, and that's what they read. And classic mean like, like 50 years or older or something like that. I think what I said is I kind of set the bar at like Dune and before. 1965 and before was what I would consider like a classic. But I want to talk about some classics that I want to read that I haven't yet, and I think that'll be a fun conversation because they brought up a lot in that discussion that I thought, man, I would have liked to have read that. I've read a lot of classics, but there's still way more classics I haven't read than I have. So I'd like to talk about some of those. Maybe I'd have an interest in getting into. So I think that could be a fun conversation to have because, last time I talked about classics on this channel was, first it was the ones that I loved, and then I did an unpopular opinion about the ones that I didn't love. But a lot of interest in that video. So I think that I would like to talk some more classics. It does seem like there is an audience for those things, and I love the classics. So I'd love to talk about them. But that's all I got this week for books, guys. There is some TV and movie talk things that we should get into here. Later by Stephen King is getting an adaptation. It says it's a limited series on streaming. It doesn't say which service, whatever, but it's going to be produced by Blumhouse, which is a real big horror studio right now. They usually, what I say about them is they're usually at least watchable, where A24 seems like it's you either love it or you hate it. Blumhouse is usually like, it's nothing great, but you know what? It's a good time. I had a good time, with a lot of these like slasher movies and stuff that they're making. You just don't take them too seriously. But this is going to star Lucy Liu. I imagine that she's going to play the police officer. That is a very prevalent character in that story. I think that'd be a great casting, but don't know much else about it. I hope they stay true to the book because I thought that was a fantastic book, and I think you could probably tell that in about 3-4 hours, a limited series. I really don't think you need to go like 10 episodes. I think, at most like 6 episodes, I think you could tell that story, unless they just want to add a bunch of stuff onto it. You guys excited about this Halo TV series? I mean, look, I would love for it to be great because I love Halo. I think it has a great storyline. But every time a major game gets a adaptation, what do they always say? Oh, it's a great game that has just pleased millions, but we're going to do something different. It's always like, okay, well, I mean, I didn't expect you to have like, a Resident Evil movie where you're like walking up the stairs and then you watch a door open. I didn't expect them to do that, but it's like those Resident Evil movies, like, ain't jack shit like the games in those, right? So whenever they make one of these, they're always like, hey, we're going to do this, but we're not going to do it like the game. They seem to claim that the Halo TV series is going to be a lot like the game. So let's see, because I think that storyline's fantastic the way that it is. You don't really have to change much, but they're going to be dropping the full trailer this weekend during the NFL playoffs. The championship games are this weekend, and so they're going to drop the trailer during that. I guess that advertising for the Super Bowl is a little more than Paramount wanted to pay, so they're going to go ahead and do it during the AFC or the NFC championship game. And fingers crossed, guys. I would love for that to be really, really good. You guys hear they're bringing back Justified? Justified, that show from FX that had Timothy Olyphant. It was a really, really good show. Cool. Look, Revival seem to be all the rage right now. It does seem to be shows that are a little older. I mean, Revival just went off, like 4 or 5 years ago? It might be longer. I don't know. Time flies. But FX, guys, is one of the most underrated original series or people that do some of the best original series I've ever watched out there. So they're bringing Justified back, and they are bringing Timothy Olyphant back as Raylan. I just hope that they bring back the gentleman. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank on what his name right now. He's awesome. He was in S.H.I.E.L.D. as Shane, and of course he was Boyd Crowder on Justified. So I hope they're bringing him back. Because I thought that the show was pretty good until Boyd became a main character on that series, and then that show just took off like a rocket and did not let up for the entirety of its run. So I hope they're bringing him back. But sure, I'll take more Justified. I'd like to see Raylan shooting some people. I hope they don't take it out of Kentucky, though, because that would just be weird. I did watch a movie with my kid this week, and a lot of people are going to be like, wow, your kid's kind of young to be watching that, right, with that bad language. Well, I was younger than him when I saw Beverly Hills Cop for the first time. Look, guys, that was a movie back when Eddie was on top of the world. I mean, Eddie could do no wrong at that time. Everything he touched was gold, and Beverly Hills Cop is no exception. And not only that, guys, it's a movie that's aged great. Sure, it looks 80s, and the soundtrack is like... You know what? That soundtrack is badass, okay? I mean, I've been singing the Pointer Sisters for like a week. I dare you to watch that movie and not be singing the Neutron Dance. It's such a good song. Woo! The opening to that is probably one of my favorite openings to any movie ever. I just love that truck chase. But it's an awesome flick, and my kid is still laughing about the banana in the tailpipe part. I mean, it's just iconic, guys. Now, the sequels, we'll talk about that another time. But he did enjoy it, and sure, it's very R-rated. So I think with that is always just kind of go by what your kids are doing. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'm playing Gears of War with them, but Beverly Hills Cop is too much for them, you know? So some bad language and things like that. Yeah, you got some people getting shot. Like I said, he's playing Gears of War where he's chainsawing people in half, you know? So, but that's kind of all I have for the movie things. There are a couple other things, guys. The sad news, I do want to talk about some music talk that I actually recorded last week's weekly update right before the news broke. It feels really sucky to be talking about this because we just lost Jim Steinman last April, and now we've lost the other half of that duo, which is Meatloaf, which is one of my favorite singers of all time. The man him and Jim basically invented the rock opera, and just a talent that was as big as he is. I mean, he was just one of the most incredible singers. Bat Out of Hell is one of the greatest albums of all time. There's not a bad note on that entire album. One of the most flawlessly produced albums I've ever listened to. And it was one of those things where it was like, Meat by himself, Jim by themselves, pretty good. But when those two got together, man, it was just rock and roll magic. And 74 just seems like it just kind of came out of nowhere. It just sucks, man. It really, really sucks. I'm glad I finally got to see him in concert back in like 2010 for the first time, or else I'd really, really be upset right now. But yeah, anytime you lose one of the biggest personalities in rock history, it's gonna take a toll. You know, it really is. But like I said, when Eddie Van Halen passed last year, we'll always be able to at least live on through those awesome albums that they made and stuff like that. So again, to lose one of my favorite singers, it's just a shame, you know. But again, no one is coming to take that music away from me, and I will always have it, and I will always blast Bat Out of Hell all the way to volume 11. Couple of gaming talk things before I go, guys. Last week I did talk about Game Pass, and it kind of got me in some hot water with the Sony cult. Now, look, I try to explain it in that thing. Guys, I don't do the teams thing. I don't play for either of these teams. I don't have stock in Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo. I have no brand loyalty. I just want all of the good products. So when I talked last week about Game Pass and how I thought it was really great, and I thought that them buying studios was not a big deal, because everybody loves it when Disney does it. But when Microsoft does it, because it's not Sony, that people get upset about it. Look, whether you relate or not, you got to admit the Sony cult is real. And they really got after me in those comments about, we know that you're an Xbox fanboy because all you talk about is Game Pass. Yeah, I got Game Pass and it's awesome. And I don't have that alternative on Sony. But you know what I do have coming? Is the game that I pre-ordered for PlayStation, which is Horizon Forbidden West, coming out in February. So for all the people who are like, oh, you're just a Xbox fanboy or something, okay, I just bought that game, and I think that Brendan wanted a Switch game. We're gonna be playing that. I forget what it is, but he got a gift card for Christmas. It's been burning a hole in his pocket, and he wants to go get this new Switch game. So yeah, we'll be playing Game Pass. We'll be playing Switch, and in February we'll be playing more of my PlayStation, guys. So I like them all. I'm a consumer. I want all of the good things. There is definitely no fanboying here. Like I said, I don't have stock in any of these companies, so zero brand loyalty here. Give me all of the good stuff. So guys, what was your week like? What do you listen to? What are you playing? What are you reading? What are you watching? Drop in the comments and let me know, and have yourselves an awesome weekend.